So we have the results from the Woods Hole Group's study. And since they opened up the railroad bridge, you know, the new bike trail bridge, we now have 1.5 to 2 feet more tide coming in, where we had 1 foot before. Significant.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay, so can everyone see the agenda on the shared screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, and looks like we've got our attendees are all ready to go. So I will start us off. The November 5th, 2020 meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission is about to be convened as a precautionary measure to reduce the spread of coronavirus. All town buildings are closed to the public. Therefore, this meeting will be held by remote participation. My name is Kelly Grant, and I will be moderating participation for this meeting. I will now turn it over to the chair of the meeting.
my name is Tom Durkin, and I am the vice chairman of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. I will be taking the role for a quorum. Ed Hoops will join us a little later. Tom Durkin is here. Pat Mulhern,
Here.
President Ellie, Lawrence,
Present.
Rick Bishop,
Present.
Paul Huggins. I see you there. And David Bernstein.
Present.
So we have 2, 4, 6 of us here. With a quorum present, I will now call the meeting to order. I will ask the moderator to explain how remote participation works.
Can anyone else hear that clicking sound, or is that just me?
Yes.
No, I'm hearing it too.
I'm hearing it.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead. Maybe if you guys try muting yourselves, and we'll figure out if it's where it's coming from. But I'll continue with this anyway. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings as provided for in the order. Persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching via this virtual meeting or the live feed on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel. You may also listen to the meeting by dialing into the number provided in the notice of meeting. We will also post a recording of this meeting on the Town of Yarmouth website as soon as we're able. Please be patient as we work to overcome any technological challenges with the virtual meeting. To reduce confusion, all participants of the virtual meeting are muted by the moderator. As participants are called upon to speak, they will be unmuted. Applicants can use the raise hand button or press *9 on their phone to identify themselves to the chair. The meeting host will then unmute applicants when they are called upon to speak. During the portion of the hearing designated for public comment, the chair or moderator will ask who in the audience has any public comments or questions. Members of the public attending the meeting virtually can use to make comments using the raise hand button within the virtual meeting or *9 on their phone. Please wait for the chairman to recognize you before speaking. Members of the public who wish to provide comment are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment. Prior to concluding opportunities for discussion, comment, or question, the chair will ask a final time if anyone wishes to speak on the matter. All votes must be roll call votes. After a motion is made and there is a second, the chair will ask the moderator to take the roll call vote. The moderator will then report that roll call vote. All motions, decisions, documents, and letters will be verbally read into the record. If it appears the meeting cannot or should not proceed, then the moderator will recommend the chair request to continue the hearing to a later date and time and or until public meetings can resume normally. I will now hand the meeting back to the chair.
Before you go, I think that click is coming from Paul, because when he muted, it went off. Paul, can you mute and see what happens?
Yeah, I just muted him at this end and it went away. So that is strange. I don't know. Yeah, maybe if Paul, if you try and just unmute yourself when you need to speak, and maybe that will help us out with that.
I don't think he can hear you.
Oh, raise your hand, Paul, if you can hear me. Yeah, I think you're right. Everyone else can hear me okay, I assume.
Yeah, and when you muted him, it came up with the phone and not a mic. So I don't know if he's using the phone and the computer, and that's what's causing the feedback. I don't know, just a guess.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and, yeah. So Paul, can you hear me now? No, he's unmuted, but we can't hear him. I'm going to mute him again at this end just to get rid of the clicking. Okay, Tom, do you want to go ahead with the first item? Tom, we can't hear you at the moment. You're muted.
Tom, you're muted.
Yep,
There you go.
I'm getting with the program.
Gotcha.
Agenda item number 1, an update on the town's dredging work. Is Cal Van Horn with us?
Yes, I've unmuted Carl, so he should be able to speak now.
Good evening.
Good evening, Cal.
This is Carl Von Hoen. I'm the Director of the Division of Natural Resources for the town of Yarmouth, for the record.
Could you give us an update on the town dredging work, Cal?
Absolutely. We already did a little bit of work over in Mill Creek this year, but we are getting ready to do a much larger dredging project at the Parkers River, the mouth and entrance channel there. Then we'll be moving over to Bass River. We'll do the entrance channel, some spot dredging up through the river, and a much larger dredging up in the area north and south of the Route 28 bridge. I'm still waiting for the pre-dredge surveys, so I don't have specific quantities, but we've been waiting about 3 years to try to get these projects done, as the county has had reoccurring issues with breakdowns in the dredging, in their dredges, as well as staffing issues. So we're anxious to get these projects done and move forward. Additionally, we will be re-entering the permitting process for our next 10-year dredging and beach comprehensive permit, like we did back in 2000, if you remember that process. We were the first to do a comprehensive dredging and beach nourishment permit in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we are going for a renewal for that permit. We're going to have a considerable amount of more data because we've been able to collect a lot of that over the years. So the application will be pretty thorough, and I'm not anticipating any issues. We're not looking at doing anything new or expanding anything. It's just a re-permitting.
Excellent. Cal, we appreciate your efforts during the years.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions from the commission?
I have 2.
David?
Just, we were discussing this before we came on, Carl. Which is Pine Island, the island that behind it, used to be able to sail through over by one of the agriculture, one of the farms?
Yes, Pine Island used to be an island. Now it's a peninsula.
Right, okay.
You can't drive around. And there are actually 3 aquaculture lease areas in front of it.
Right, okay, that's what I was wondering. And secondly, this is a curiosity question. You mentioned what's going on this year. Do you have a schedule for following years? You know, of course, I'm interested in what's going on in Lewis Bay.
Absolutely. We work out what is going to be dredged with the county dredge and their staff, as well as the other 15 communities, as far as what their needs are and whether those projects are funded or not. So we do that annually, and we usually work on that process in August of each year and come up with the dredging schedule. At this point, as far as anything for Lewis Bay as a whole, for, I don't know if it's the second, third, or fifth year, I've gone before the Capital Budget Committee to do a Lewis Bay study. And part of that would be investigating what we might be able to do to improve the flushing. So stay tuned with that. We're just entering that process right now.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Carl? Carl, are you going to inform us about the repairs to the Raymond Siljala boardwalk?
Yeah, you're off the hook. I've already paid that bill. But you will likely be seeing me in the future as we have other big projects that we may need assistance purchasing material for. We've had an awful lot of repairs that have been needed throughout a lot of the conservation areas. At this point, just for the purpose of time and paying our bills promptly, we went ahead and paid that bill. But I will be in touch if and when we need some potential assistance.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the commission in regard to the boardwalk? Hearing none, Carl, we thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good evening. Everybody stay healthy and safe. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability. Mary and Otto Prezikazas, 122 Lookout Road, Yarmouth, Mass. Proposed new driveway within the buffer zone for an isolated wetland. I certainly hope I have pronounced the name correctly or close.
So we have Mary in the audience and I've unmuted her, so she should be able to speak to present her project.
All right, I don't see her on the,
Mary, are you there?
hello, Mary?
I can see her there and she's unmuted, but she maybe she has audio issues at her end. I can run through just based on the application that was received if you would like.
Please.
So on the screen you can see the plan which they were proposing to relocate a driveway, and this plan marks delineates an isolated wetland on the property. The closest point of the proposed driveway is at 35 feet from that wetland, and then it gets further away from the wetland as it reconnects with the existing paved driveway. It's going to be a pervious driveway made of stone, and then they were going to restore the area where the existing paved driveway is. And then I've got a couple of photos there. The one at the bottom shows on the left-hand side the area where the driveway is proposed to go. And then on the right-hand side where the car is the existing driveway. So the area is already cleared. So there will be no further removal of vegetation or anything for this work. It's just going to connect just up beyond this point here back in with the existing driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if, Mary, have you been able to unmute yourself?
Would Mary want to use her phone?
There is a phone there. If you could press *9 on your phone if you've dialed in and want to speak so that we can recognize you. There's another number come up, so I'll just wait to see if I can recognize the phone number. do people have any questions on the project? If everyone's comfortable with what has been the information that's been provided, and don't have any questions, then we could proceed. Otherwise, if you feel the need to ask Mary some questions.
If I may, it's just a curiosity question. Why are they, and I appreciate going to a pervious driveway instead of the hardscape, but why are they changing the driveway? Just a,
Yeah, and I was thinking about that while I was going through it, and I know I had an early discussion with her about this a long time ago, but I can't recall the reason for it now. So I'm just going back to.
From the plan, it appears that the new, proposed driveway is almost twice as wide, so that would be one reason. And I'm a little unclear. Are we removing all of the asphalt all the way up to the house, or just that small little jog area?
Yeah, so it sounds like we need to have Mary join us to be able to answer your questions.
Paul, another comment or question?
I think that Paul has lost his audio
No,
again. Oh, you are there. Okay.
Yeah, I got back again. Thanks. I didn't hear a lot of the discussion on this though. I just returned.
Okay.
Well-
If you would like, I've got a number here for Mary, and I can try and give her a quick call and see if we can resolve.
Why don't you do this, Kelly, before we leave this, I'd like to hear from her.
Okay, just one moment.
Tom, did you see the chat from Ron Cadillac?
He said that he prepared it for her.
Right. So he's there
Ron
too.
gonna join us?
I just spoke with Mary, and she's going to dial in so she can answer your questions.
Ron Cadillac is there too, he said on chat.
I'll unmute.
Thanks, David.
There he is. Okay, I've allowed him to speak as well if he wants to address you.
well, it gives me time to catch up on the minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ron.
All right.
Joining us.
They do intend to take the whole driveway up. I know that. As far as why they want it there, my understanding is they've always wanted it there. I think the area that's cleared where the new driveway is going to go, I believe that was done a number of years ago, and they just either didn't have the money or they didn't get around to it. But, you know, it would be better, obviously, if Mary answered your questions. So.
Well, I think Mary will join us, Ron. Thank you. Just a
Okay.
minute or two, hopefully.
I'm just going to try and see if I can find her, which number she is. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I've unmuted her phone number now, so she should be able to unmute herself at her end and then be able to speak.
Hello.
Hello, Mary.
I hear an echo. But I'm not sure I've heard all of your questions. But when we bought the house and began removing dangerous trees and landscaping, our landscaper suggested that we change the driveway. The driveway is very narrow. People have difficulty backing out. There is a hazardous entryway, or I should say exit, from the driveway on the east side. We cannot see safely. Also, the snowplows tend to block the driveway when they are coming up Dartmoor. And we've never had cars drive in our driveway, but I guess that's always a possibility because the driveway is intersecting with Dartmoor. And we just thought that visibly a different landscape and different driveway would be a complement to the property.
Oh, thank you very much, Mary. Are there any other questions from the commission? Hearing none,
sorry, I
is there
didn't-
any from the audience?
I had one question, Tom. Pardon me.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm that they were removing all the asphalt all the way to the home, and that would just be replaced by impervious, I'm guessing, stone material.
Mary, can you respond to that, please?
Yes, the stone will go all the way to the house.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't seen any questions from the audience. So could I have a motion in regard to this RDA? Kelly, did you have anything to add?
No, I have nothing to add.
Asking again for a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move to accept the moving of this driveway, relocating it outside the 34-foot buffer zone. And the old driveway will be restored with plantings, and the full driveway all the way to the house will be made of pervious material. Recommended -3 determination.
Excellent. So I hear a second.
So seconded.
Thank you, Ellie. I'll call the roll.
I can do that for you if you'd like, Tom.
Would you please? Thank you.
Yep. Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
and Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. The next is a notice of intent. 65 Winchester Street, Paul and Linda McCarthy. Proposed construction of a 3-bedroom dwelling with 2-car garage within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. This is a new construction. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
We have Ron Cadillac in the audience presenting this one.
Do you want to present this, Ron?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud.
All
and
right.
clear.
This is Ron Cadillac, land surveyor and sanitarian, and I had the help of Steve Haas, professional engineer in regards to the drainage on this plan. You see the latest version here. I'm looking at the narrative that I gave you. We are reducing a little bit the fill under the block patio. I did lower that after I wrote this narrative, and we are increasing the developed area to around 14,000 square feet. Let me show you. I think you can see me. Can you folks see me?
No.
Oh, all right. Let me, somewhere I had, this is the first time I've done this on my laptop. I probably should have used my iPad because I've zoomed on that a number of times. I'm not exactly sure how to.
What are you trying to
I'm
do
trying
now?
to activate the video so you can see me.
Yeah, this is a webinar, so attendees don't have the ability to use video, only the commission.
Okay, all right then, because I had prepared some visuals, but I guess I'll have to describe it. The basic issue with this lot is we're building a 3-bedroom dwelling and a 2-car garage. And from what you can see, the lot opens up like a funnel. And basically the wetlands is in the middle of the lot. We have upland at the rear, but obviously it's not usable for us. So we're kind of squished in to the wetlands. And, I wish we could be further away from the wetlands than just over 50 feet. But we just don't have the room on this particular lot. And our proposed leaching is 105 feet from the wetlands at the closest point, and the house is a little over 51 and 52 feet, depending on whether you're talking to the deck, to the actual resource area. It's got a conventional septic system, and we've added a swale along the right-hand side. And the abutter there rose objections to the original plan. So we added the work limit line all along that boundary. And in talking with Steve Haas, our drainage engineer, we're also including the swales is 4 feet, proposed 4 feet off the property line. And we're proposing a 6-foot vegetative area with perennials and ground covers that'll include that swale, and it'll actually improve the drainage because it'll slow down the flow of water from the front yard that'll eventually, flow towards the wetlands. But the proposed dry wells remove the house. So basically, the flow will not increase. It should reduce considerably to the wetlands over what's there now. But I don't know if you have any specific questions. I don't want to keep talking, but I'd like to address your questions at this time.
All right. Thank you very much, Ron. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, Kelly, do you have any suggestions or questions?
I just have a couple of things. So I just wanted to let you know that I had heard from the neighbor with regard to her concerns with regard to runoff from this project to the area behind her property. There are wetlands in the back part of the neighboring property as well. Expressing those concerns to Ron Border about some changes to the plan, which is what I'm showing you on the screen, which Ron just described in terms of having that vegetated buffer between the properties and the drainage swale. And Ron, you said you'd reduce the grading there a little around where the
Yes,
block patio
under the
areas.
block patio.
Mhm.
that's about 16 foot elevation. They wanted a little flat area. And so the block patio is at elevation 16, and that'll be a little flat area right behind the garage. And then they wanted a vegetable garden. So I changed the work limit on the upper right-hand side of the drawing to include a vegetable garden, because obviously you can't put a vegetable garden on a slope. I guess you could if that's all you had. But if you have some flat areas, that would be much better for a vegetable garden.
So you mentioned that the drainage engineer that you'd worked with him on these changes, and that he was comfortable that there should be no increase in runoff to the
Yes.
wetland as a result. Okay, so will he be stamping the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once, if you agree with the current revisions, then I'd give you, how many do you want? Do you want a couple of stamp plans
Yeah,
for
just
your file?
just two for the file. But yeah, I just wanted to check that the drainage engineer who had looked at this is prepared to stamp it.
Yeah, he has a copy.
Yeah.
I PDF'd him along with
Okay.
you and the commissioners and the buyer. And they've all looked at the plans and they're all happy. At least no one's got back and said they weren't happy. But I discussed the changes with Steve over the phone and along the swale. And it's an improvement if we revegetate that area. I was concerned that whether it should stay a grass swale, and he said, no, the ground covers like ivy or perennials are better. They would slow the flow, which
Preferably
is
not ivy, because it's not a native and it can become quite invasive. So let's avoid the ivy if we can.
Well, if then I would have no problem changing the wording on that. Or as long as you're comfortable talking with the owners, when they become the owners anyways, the buyers at the moment. But I think they're amendable to, to including some items from the Barnstable, the county list.
Yeah, so using the perennials and ground covers is good. I think, yeah, you just have to be careful with ivy because it can spread and become quite aggressive. And also, I don't think it does an awful lot for reducing erosion and kind of scour, because it, creates that cover sort of above the surface and the water just kind of runs underneath it. So maybe an alternative to that, but just using the county
Okay, so
list as
actually,
a guideline.
The way I have it worded is revegetate with perennials and ground covers. So you just don't include ivy in that. Yeah, okay.
Or a more detailed landscaping plan can just be submitted for approval. That just adds the list of plants that are proposed.
Okay, so you want a list of the proposed plants from the buyers then, or what they're planning on putting in there, or from me?
I mean, that doesn't need to necessarily be provided at this point, because we have it on there that it's going to be revegetated. I just think it would be good to include that as a condition, that a landscaping plan be reviewed by myself before that with the specific plant list be provided to myself for review before that goes ahead. So they don't have to do that right at this point.
Okay.
And then just my other comment is that we have not been issued with a file number for this project from DEP yet. So we will have to continue to receive that number.
Yeah, and they haven't cashed my check either, which is unusual. Usually that's the first thing they do.
Yeah, I think they have a little bit of a backlog at the moment.
Hopefully, yeah. But I do have, if I look, I have the name of the guy up at Lakeville that's handling it. So maybe I could give him a call or something and find out. I think I might have his email. So.
Back to you, Tom.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience? Hearing none and no more further questions. Paul, yes.
I just have one question looking at the plan. Maybe just directed at Kelly in terms of her thoughts. I see a lawn that's planned for the back of the property. Just wonder if that's optimal in terms of this area.
That's the front.
There's lawn at the roadside of the property, and there's lawn up to the 35-foot no disturb zone. So typically property owners have been allowed to have some area of lawn between the house as long as that 35-foot buffer zone remains in a natural state.
Okay.
There is a 4-foot buffer along most of the 35-foot buffer. If you see the plantings, mixed hydrangea, hosta, perennials.
In this area.
Yeah, along there. So they wanted some planting beds, and that seemed like the best place to put them, so to keep the lawn further away at that point.
Are there any other comments from this commission? Rick?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank Kelly for requesting the stamp plan. I think that's critical given the other challenges we have on our plate right now.
Okay. I believe it would be appropriate right now for this notice of intent to say to have a continuance, a motion for a continuance to, would November 19th, Ron, be appropriate? 2 weeks?
I'm not sure why you're continuing.
Because
Well,
we don't have the DEP file number yet.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess so you can't vote to approve it until you have that file number.
no,
All
we
right.
cannot.
No. Okay.
So we'll shoot for the 19th, and if something happens, then we'll continue again.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you.
A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Pat.
Pat, thank you. Kelly, will you call the roll?
Thank
Bishop,
you.
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence.
Aye.
Hoops, are you voting on this one? You're muted at the moment.
Sorry, I will abstain since I only came in halfway through. So
Okay. Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstain. That's to continue to November 19th for
Thank
the DEP file number.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Ed, do you want to take over?
okay, thank
to
you,
see
thank you
ya.
very much, Tom. I will pick up with another continued notice of intent for SE 83-1367, continued from October 1st, 2020 for Anthony Fiola, 1 Waffle Road, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Proposed construction of coir log erosion control on eroding bank, sand nourishment and plantings, and a coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage. And Kelly, I believe we have a request to continue. Is that correct?
We do have a request to continue, yes, to December 3rd.
To December 3rd. Okay. So do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you,
John.
Tom. Is there a second?
Second, David.
Thank you, David. Kelly, would you call the roll, please?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins.
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously to continue to December 3rd.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Next order of business is another continued notice of intent for SE 83-2246, continued from October 15th, 2020, for Robert Griffin, Sweetheart Creek Association, Sweetheart Creek, off Great Island Road, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Proposed maintenance dredging of Sweetheart Creek. And I believe Matt is in the audience. Is that right? Thought I saw him there.
Yes, I will allow him to talk. He should be able to unmute himself now.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Perfect. Afternoon, my name is Matthew Creighton with the BSD Group, representing the Sweetheart Creek Association for the project. This is a continued project. The last time we were here, there was a request to file some COCs for the project itself, or various projects within the creek, I should say, mostly old dredge projects. We've done that. There was also a request to provide the 15-foot offset to the salt marsh and recalc the amount of cubic yards that would change the volume from. So we've gone and did that and provided the revised plan. We originally had 10 feet off of salt marsh proposed and 7,907 cubic yards of sand to be removed or material to be removed from the creek. By changing this to the 15-foot offset, we're down to 3,430 cubic yards that would be removed with that offset. I believe talking to Kelly that Carl and the guys have opened this thing up for shellfishing, and there was a request that we don't dredge prior to December 1st of this year, which we have no issue with that, so that they can get in there and harvest any shellfish in that area if they want. I believe that's pretty much it. You guys should have now the Natural Heritage letter with our restrictions there and the DMF letter for the 2 time a year restrictions. Essentially, we'd be able to dredge from September 1st to January 15th of any year. That would be our dredge window. We're still proposing -5 foot mean low water with dredging with an over dredge of -5.5 and the 40-foot wide channel. I think that was pretty much it. Just a couple little things to edit and revise plans and get in.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And so did I catch you? You said you were moving from 10 foot to 15 foot off the salt marsh. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And but it wasn't always 15 feet?
The original, when we were in front of you the first time, we were requesting 10 feet off of salt marsh. Prior permits, when we've gone through this, it was 15 feet in the past. We were asking to go to 10, and there was some question on whether or not, the board should allow it. And then I had mentioned that we'll just go right back to 15 if that's okay, and do the revised plan. So
okay, so you just that's where my confusion was. Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll send it out to the rest of the board. Any questions among the commissioners?
Nope.
No.
One quick question, sorry.
Yeah, David.
I'm a little confused. Are you going to wait till after the December 1st request that Carl has about the shellfish?
yeah, so for dredging for this year, we have no problem with waiting till after December 1st and just giving those guys a little more time. Anyone that wants to go in and shellfish the commercial to just harvest out of there. And then moving forward, we would ask that we would just keep the time of year window that's been restricted by Division of Marine Fisheries and Natural Heritage, which would be basically allowing us to dredge between September 1st and January 1st of any year. This year kind of being the exception. And dredging this year, honestly, we would only be dredging the mouth. We wouldn't be dredging the whole creek in December.
What happens if they want to do more shellfishing in the future years? Do you come back and check that before you dredge?
We're not required to come back and check it during our dredge window, but we are required to notify prior to dredging a couple of weeks to let conservation and 91 and Corps, kind of everybody know that we're planning to get out there, who the contractor is, that kind of stuff. I assume at that time, if the town wanted to open it to harvest or to keep it open to harvest at some point, that's up to the shellfish warden.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on that, it's Kelly here. Typically, though, if you did the notification for dredging, you would be required to remove shellfish in the dredge footprint, right? So this was allowing the area to be opened up for shellfishing first was to negate the need to remove the shellfish before you carry out the dredging. And that would be the case before any dredging activity took place. Wouldn't that be the case?
Not typically. We do, it depends on the town and the commission, but we do have times where we're conditioned to go out and remove shellfish if we have a really high populated area. But typically if we are maintenance dredging, the frequency of that dredging, there usually isn't a whole lot of shellfish in there. So if we dredge this year, next year, the year after, if it's an annual dredge, then we're not going to see the shellfish in that in the dredge footprint. Being that this hasn't been dredged in a couple of years, I think that may be why there's a little bit more of a question. I'm not sure, but it's really up to the commission if you wanted us to go out to remove stuff if there's a gap or something like that. But I assume in talking to the association, they're setting up a fund to try and dredge basically annually at this point, because we keep getting into these more emergency situations where everybody shows up after April 1st and it's closed off and they want to dredge, and we've already got time of year restrictions, and so it tends to cause more of an emergency, and they're hoping to avoid that.
Okay, so perhaps the way of handling that would be that in the conditions have, if there is a gap of more than say 1 year between dredging episodes, then the applicant would either be required to remove the shellfish or the area be opened up to shellfishing, if the commission thinks that would be something.
Yeah, and you may even want to condition it to say, a minimum of 1 month prior or something along those lines, just so there's an adequate amount of time for anyone to get in there for harvesting. I would suggest, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That makes sense.
I agree. I think we should make sure that if there's shellfish, that it is properly removed.
Okay, is there anything else, anybody else among the commission, any other questions?
Ed, Paul.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the shellfish, because I had wondered about this before the meeting started. Is this open to commercial shellfishing or recreational shellfishing? And how long has it been involved in, let's say it's commercial shellfishing? I mean, does this is this a vital area for that, or what's kind of the story of it?
I believe, from my understanding, it's not typically always open to commercial or recreational. I'm not sure what the approval is on a normal year-to-year basis. I do know, or at least it seems like they're asking or opening it up to commercial now so that it can be harvested before dredging would commence.
I see.
I don't know if it's opened every year. I'm not really sure how that's set up with the town.
No, I think it's all commercial, but I don't think it's opened up every year. We should have asked Carl that, but.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. It's not opened up every year, but it's being opened up now specifically because of this project to allow them to harvest the shellfish before the dredging takes place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion among the commission? All right, Kelly, we have DMF and natural heritage letters as well, right?
That's right. Yep. So can include those conditions in the order. The other thing I just recommend including is that there be some monitoring of the extent of salt marsh and any damage that may be occurring with the salt marsh, just because the state does provide the recommendation of the 25 feet between the top of dredge slope and the salt marsh area, and we're going to be at 15 feet. So I think it would be worth just monitoring the salt marsh perhaps annually, just to see if there are any negative changes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's important because we are. I mean, I realize that we've done 15 feet for many years with this project. But again, if we have a recommendation from DMF for 25, then we should at least. It doesn't appear as though there's been any impact, but at least we should have data that could support that if somebody comes back in the future at some point and says just that. So I would agree to the monitoring. Is that okay, Matt? You're good with that?
Yeah, I would say, our thought process in the beginning or the last hearing was that, like you said, we've been dredging out here for quite a few years now, and the salt marsh is pretty healthy, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of change in it. loss or anything. But yeah, it's more than likely as we get through the process, when we hit 91 and core and stuff, they'll want some kind of a update on salt marsh, and we would provide that to you guys as well. So if you want to add it into the order, an annual check or we can do that pretty quick and easily. So I don't have
Okay.
an issue with that.
All right. Anybody else? Anything? Any other questions? Is there anybody in the audience who has any comments or concerns with this project?
I don't see any
I
hands
see
raised.
none. So would somebody like to make a motion then? This would be where somebody would make a motion.
Uh,
I think
I'll-
Paul's trying to.
I'll make a motion that we accept this dredging with the ongoing yearly monitoring of the marsh because of the not required, or the 15 feet dredging off the marsh. The shellfish removal or notification for removal before they do any annual dredging. Is there anything else? I'm busy writing, so I'm.
Nope, you got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Second, Tom.
All right, thank you, Tom. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. I have a quick little side note that we are doing the Cape Cod Rail Trail inspections for salt marsh for MassDOT. And Rick, I heard you mention the flood up there. MassDOT is really interested on any information that we can gather off of upstream stuff. We're looking at just the bridge itself, but the salt marsh looks really good out there. We haven't had a significant change in square footage in the last couple of years. We've been monitoring it and doing reports. I know you guys probably don't always get them because it's a 91 in core requirement. So
Right.
just an update.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, next order of business is another continued notice of intent. This is also continued from, this is continued from October 1st, 2020 for SE 83-2251 Paul Mazuka, 45 Crosby Street Extension and 15 Ship Shops Way, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Extension of existing stone revetment on a coastal bank and riverfront area. And I believe Kelly's, you have a request for another continuance to December 3rd.
Actually, just a correction on that. It's this one's a continuance to this November 19th.
Oh, to November 19th. Okay. All right. If I could get a motion to that effect.
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right. Thank you. I'll go with David and then seconded by Ellie.
Okay.
Kelly, would you call the roll, please?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously to continue to November 19.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, we have a request for an amended order of conditions for SE 83-2197 Srinath and Shaila Narahari, 5 New Hampshire Avenue, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Proposed revision to an approved plan to replace a pile foundation with a poured concrete foundation with flood compliant walls, flood vents, and an enclosed storage area garage within the buffer zone to a salt marsh and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And who is here for that?
We have Dan Ojala and I think the property owner as well, or I have unmuted them.
Yes, Dan Ojala here for the record from Down Cape Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you, Dan. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. So this is a pretty straightforward project. It's a little bit better than what you approved last time. What we did is they're switching foundation systems. They were going to try and reuse the piles, and you might remember that we were moving the house forward. We're taking one side off and a little bit of an addition and going with an upper level. So that was approved, moving it kind of on the same footprint towards the New Hampshire Avenue, one row of piles. They've since taken a look at it, and it's such a hassle to redo those piles underneath the existing building and so forth, and then having to remove the other ones and trying to get everything to work. They decided that it would be better just to go with a regular A-zone flood compliant concrete wall. So you'll still have the protection of being all water resistant, flood resistant construction. They'll just be knockout smart vents. So the waters just simply go in and go back out again. And that lets us go a little bit closer to the street. So we moved over. Obviously we need a set of stairs in the front has been moved to, the front setback is 30. We gave ourselves a 6-inch construction tolerance, so it's at 30.5. We're still ripping up the whole paved driveway. We're going to have a gravel drive that goes underneath the building, so that's pervious. And the advantage too is they will be able to park the car underneath there. That's one of the few things you can do in a flood zone is park the car. So it'll be a little bit, more sightly from the street. Instead of having to look at a car, it'll be a little cleaner image. The car will be able to be tucked underneath the house. So that's it in a nutshell. Hopefully you can find this as an amended order. I would note that the buffer we're not proposing to reduce the mitigation any, but we did reduce the hardscape within the 0 to 35, which you guys pay particular attention to it, from 670 down to 581. So that's a nice drop. And again, the footprint has been slid as close as we can to the street without violating the zoning setback. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions if you have them, but hopefully we could vote that this is an amended order and we wouldn't have to go through the full process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So right off the top, I'm just going to say you're moving the house back toward the street, but it looks as though I'm looking at I'm trying to look at the two plans and see how they're coming together.
Yeah, it's highlighted here that we're adding on underneath the existing deck as we slide it away from the water. That was approved before. It's exactly the same proposal, just nudged a little bit closer to the street. And instead of trying to sister up the piles, because we had to raise the foundation because of the flood zone, it was a real hassle to try and make those existing piles work and line everything up, and it was just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. So it's identical, except where there was a paved driveway in the front before. We're able to get rid of that and have the gravel driveway to the side. Before it was, I think, 31.9 to that, and now you can see it's 30.5. So it's nudged a little bit closer to the street. We're constrained by the a mounted septic system on the left of the plan as you look at it, and the hassle of moving a house way across a lot to the right for no real gain. So so that's it. We're sliding it away quite a bit. You can see now overall from the wetland. So I think that's a nice positive. We're getting back a little bit of space underneath the deck, but again, it's much further. The hardscape is going way down in the 0 to 35. I think it's a very approvable project, and you're getting, 1,500 feet of 1,570 of lawn removal and nice native planting. So I think for the environment, a good project. We're taking the shed and moving it out of the buffer completely, which is another positive.
So again, though, with the addition originally was approved to be on top of a deck, essentially. Is that right?
Yeah, within the footprint of the deck. Yeah.
But now you're moving it back, and there will be a full foundation under that as well.
Well, again,
Under the addition?
It's the identical project. There's zero change. All we're doing is moving it a little bit further from the wetland and replacing the piling system with a concrete wall system.
Well, that's a big change, though. I mean, you're taking what was the addition portion of the project was it was supposed to be on top of a deck, essentially. And so I can see how you're saying that there's no change in footprint that way, but there's a huge impact. There's a big impact between doing that versus what you're proposing now, where you're going to be putting the addition not on piles in the same footprint, but on a full foundation underneath that addition. So I think that's a big difference. And my bigger concern then would be how floodwater is going to affect. I mean, are we essentially moving? And so we're going to have a big house that sits right here, and funnels water to both sides of the property and off the property into the neighborhood. So that's my concern.
Okay, well, to address that, what I would say is that if you look at the prior approval, it was fully skirted all the way around. So it's going to look almost identical both ways, whether whether it was approved or what's, and it's just hidden behind the skirting is either concrete or columns. But it's the thing with the coastal A zone floodwaters is that salt marsh behind us is going to flood. It's going to flood across the front from the sides. The amount of displacement of this tiny little foundation is a pin in a bathtub. It makes zero effect on anything around it. It's an extremely de minimis amount. And the water is allowed to, fully vent in and then vent back out. That's absolutely required by code. You've got to have, probably 6 or 8 or 10 smart vents all the way around, so the water can simply go right in and go right back out again. So it would be almost a zero effect. There could be, a couple foot high waves, but on this across New Hampshire Avenue, there's a great big house. We've got the mounded system, which is going to be there, is already there. And so it's at the end of the day, very, very little difference. Again, the salt marsh will flood, the street will flood, it'll come up. And, these events tend to, the water rises fairly slowly and goes down fairly slowly. It's a tidal cycle almost, that you're dealing with, maybe a little bit quicker than a moon tide up and down. And the water simply come in and recede harmlessly. It's, all the plants around here are acclimated. Cedars generally can take a salt water and they'll keep on living. All the stuff we're doing is coastal. So I think at the end of the day, yes, the difference would be, there's a little bit of concrete there instead of the wood skirting and but it's going to look very, very similar to what you've already approved, and it will function virtually identical in terms of the flood waters. So I would argue that it's really about the same as what you approved, just a little bit better, and 100 square foot less within the 35, which is always a positive thing, and than what you already approved. And we're not taking out one blueberry bush. It's all the same mitigation.
Okay, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean, I'm also looking at this now, and it's like if we're being asked to approve essentially a movement of footprint of the house, then my next question is, why don't we just move the whole house out of the 50? It seems as though there's room.
No, well, let's see, that's the problem. We're against the front yard setback there of 30, and so it's gone from 14 to what, 24. Or it's moved quite a bit, but we're right. We're not taking down the deck and the stairs, so those are just getting jammed as far as we can to the setback. So you're right. Normally we'd move it out of the 50, but we're stuck. It's a thin lot. It's only 100, and kind of is what it is.
Okay, all right. I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the commissioners and ask if they have any comments, questions. So, commissioners,
I have a question.
David,
it's just for my education. So the zone, the concrete wall is going in the back of the house?
So what it's going to be like a stem wall all the way around. So instead of the foundation system now, which is multiple big pressure treated pilings, it's just going to be nice inert concrete stem wall all the way around. And then it's going to have flood vents in it. Well, yeah, so that's basically it. It's basically the proposal. It'll be hidden so you don't look at it. No one wants to look at a 6-foot concrete wall. So we'll skirt it with pressure treated, but not pressure treated, but like hardy board.
Mm-hmm. So I live around this area and I walk by here every day and been here on hurricanes. And it seems that, and you described it, if the water comes from the marsh at the same time as coming from the ocean, from the bay, yeah, and the water cuts into that, for lack of a better term, basement, it can't go through it because it's coming both ways. So I'm a little confused how that works.
So it's just, they are two-way valves. So if one side, if there's a pressure distribution, if it's the water is again, water seeks its own level. So very quickly, I mean, you might have a little spillage across the lawn, but let me see, that's 4, and what's the flood zone? 13. So you get 9 feet of water on this lot. It's just underwater completely. And so there might be a gradient of an inch or two across the lot where the water is slowly, flowing. And it's physically designed to not fall down during that. So there's some reinforcing in the walls. There's big holes. The smart vents are, if you look them up online, there's some nice demonstrations, but the hole is the size of a concrete block. The whole thing spins sideways and lets the water gush in and out. A 3-inch sphere can go right through it. So you can fit a tremendous amount of water if you ever study orifices and holes and things. That's a huge orifice, and it can cover probably at least 200 square foot of floor area, and will equalize against the rate of flooding of a hurricane. So, that's how they handle it. I've seen them work. The big flood we had up in the big tidal flood up in the harbor there on the north side of about 10.4. We had a couple of them. The water went right in, went right back out. The kayaks and floated around inside and banged around a little bit. A couple life preservers got knocked off it, but it worked beautifully. And that's just what they do. Again, if you've got big waves, it's a different matter. But this will be, have some steel in it, and there's it's designed to handle it. And again, if you get 9 feet of water on this lot. It'll simply fill up inside, and then the water will gush out the holes just as fast as the tide is receding, and it'll seek its own level. Again, if you look at a dam spillway or anything with any size to it, you get just a very small amount of gradient, moves a tremendous amount of water.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Rick?
I tend to agree with you, Ed. I think he's proposing a new deck and new stairs. That could be reconfigured and get this building closer to the front of the property. So that would be my interest.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Ellie.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
How high is the skirt wall he's talking about? I thought it was a concrete slab, and now he's talking about a skirt wall added onto it. How high would that be?
So it's going to look just like any other house. Because it'll be hidden, but there's going to be just a concrete floor underneath, flush with the ground. So that's at like elevation 4, and the first floor by code has to be 2 feet above the design flood elevation. So it's got to be on the order of 12. So probably about 15 would be the minimum. So we haven't made any changes to that. Let me see, what does it say? So the first floor is a minimum of 13, all flood zone resistant below 13. There's would be 2 ways of doing it. You could either do like concrete, the corners out of concrete and a couple of columns with some reinforcing steel in them, or you could just pour it all the way up like an 8-foot wall. But what you do is you just staple siding to the outside of it, hardy board, so it doesn't look like concrete. So you could either build it out of pressure treated framing, very sturdy with some concrete columns, or you could just pour like a regular wall with steel in it and sheathe the outsides. And there's some windows in it, so it looks like a house. It doesn't look odd. I believe in the package there's some information, but it would look identical to what we had before. Yeah, you can see there's a garage door and some fake windows and stuff, so it just looks like a house. It doesn't look awful.
That's a pretty high. That's a pretty high skirt wall.
Oh yeah, it looks like a story. Yeah, it's you're going to see 8 inches of concrete, but it's physically going to be. Sections of it will go up to as a regular foundation would to hold the home in place. It's either that or we do,
And these won't, excuse me, these won't get knocked out in a storm and cause debris flying all over the place?
Correct. Yeah. No, it's sturdy construction. Everything is bolted on. I mean, you never know. You can get 100-year. It's designed to withstand a 100-year event, and there's it can't fly off with 120-mile-an-hour wind. If we get a doozy of 150 mile an hour, I wouldn't say that the shingles won't fly off the house, and things will happen if we get a tremendous storm, but it will certainly withstand the required code events.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else in the commission?
All set.
So, I mean, as a way forward, what I could see here, to Rick's point, is I'm thinking now that if we move those stairs to the side, we could get another 4 feet closer to the street. Would that be acceptable to the commission? That might be a nice compromise, because you'd get quite a bit less within the 50, but I'm just looking, I didn't really think of that, but we can probably rebuild those stairs on the side. We're doing the deck anyway over there. So, why not put them off, one side or the other? They'll be out of the 50. And that'll let the whole house move, the width of the stairs closer to the street. I think that'd be a good win for you guys. What would you think about that?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I'll listen to what the rest of the commission has to say on that.
Well, if I may, it will move it closer to the road, but I have to agree with Ed about the concrete padding. I think that's a little more than what we originally approved, and more than what we should think about.
So, because again, first time I've been through this, I wasn't here for the original. Are you saying that they should reapply under a different way to do this? Is that what's going on here?
We're saying that if they're, this is an amended order, so all they're asking for is if we approve this plan as it's written right now, we would give essentially a new set of orders of condition to fit this particular rendition of the project. They would still finish it off in the same amount of time. There's no change to the it's not there, the order isn't extended. They're still supposed to be working under the same time limits, but we're essentially giving a new set of orders of conditions for this project as it's proposed right now. And now we're talking about, and what we're saying is that if we're going to be changing, this is a significant change, which is required. That's why the amended order is required in the first place. Then I think we might still be able to do a little bit better in design. It looks to me as though you have decks on 3 of the 4 sides of the house. So I think there could be some more design work that would reduce that and allow the house to be moved completely out of the 35 and maybe even out of the 50. Well, it's probably not going to be 50, but it would be a significant improvement that way. So that's where we're standing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, how can we do that though, Ed? I mean, obviously if you completely wreck the front deck, and they enjoy right now a beautiful wraparound deck, and it's elevated and they can look out and it's very nice and they like that. What they desire to do is to move it as far as that same system as close to New Hampshire as they can. And, so that's what we'll propose. They don't want to rip down the whole house and redesign everything. They're trying to save, the decks and the house and just slide it over. And that's what we've approved. The only difference right now is that if you look at the old approval, that's all skirting around it. It looks, I'd say almost a little unsightly to see, vertical slats, and, we can build that because that's what you approved, and, we've got it and so forth. But
Yeah, but Dan, we're not talking about we don't care what it looks like. I mean, we're talking about the structural integrity of it, and there's clearly a difference in structural integrity between piles versus an 8-foot tall wall.
Yeah, but it's sheathed with the same stuff, so it's just, I don't understand how the structure of something affects the act, you know, the water can go in and go out, you've got testimony on that.
I think having a solid wall of concrete is a difference. There's a difference between a solid wall of concrete and a solid wall of wood. Wood between piles is going to be less structurally sound. It's going to be able to be, there's a better chance of it becoming debris, essentially, in a heavy flood, especially if we get any kind of storm wave action onto that. Whereas upon a concrete, yeah, if you're putting the sheathing around it, you're still going to create a debris field potentially, but you certainly are not going to move the house. You know, I mean, if something's that's going to move that house, then you know that's the last of our concerns.
I have some comments. This is Srinath Narahari. My wife is Shaila Srinath next to me. From what I understand, according to the architect, there won't be a concrete wall. The foundation will be subgrade, below the grade, and there'll be like 6 or 7 inches of concrete above grade. So there'll be pillars. I mean, everything will be timber above this concrete foundation. So it'll be all subgrade. I mean, so below the grade. So there won't be a concrete wall as such. It'll be all timber.
I don't think that's the case, though, is it, Dan?
Well, again, like I was saying, there's a number of ways you can do these. You can do that, and that is acceptable. But what you have to do is build a very strong house that has, pressure treated type or rot resistant wood up to the design flood elevation. So he's right. You could do, just basically do build it like a PT deck and put on pressure treated plywood or structural materials that are water resistant, and build it like a regular house. It can get wet and then dry out again, and you don't get mold. It can't be heated. You can't do anything down there except store a car or put in your kayaks or canoes or cold storage, lawn furniture, things like that. So it's basically identical to what was there before. The difference being you've got a few more inches of room for water to go through. And I would just say that, if we were here on a coastal dune and there was sand movement, I can see your point. Sure, you got to worry about every little grain of sand blowing underneath this thing. This is a still water flood elevation. It's got 9 feet of water over the entire lot. How on earth is there a difference between water flowing through a structure that's made out of piles with tight lattice around it, or that's made out of pressure treated wood with holes in it, and or even concrete with holes in it? There's no difference. There physically is no difference to the environment. You guys are charged with protecting the environment and making sure that there's not any problems. There will be no problems with 9 feet of water on this lot. The system, the environmental system, does not know whether there's concrete hiding behind that lattice or pressure treated wood or piles. It just doesn't know. The water goes through, water goes in, the water goes out. The entire lot is a conduit for water flow. It's just we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. It's really a non-issue.
Okay. So is there
Mr.
any...
Chairman, could I make a quick comment?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's Kelly here. I with this new design don't have any huge concerns about still water flooding. I think that that what Dan is saying makes sense in terms of the way the water will flow. I think where my concern would be, and in terms of the regulations, is any impacts to the resource area, the salt marsh resource area being the closest one, and how the difference in terms of more wave energy interacting with the structure and how it could, reflected wave energy could impact the resource area. And certainly by them moving the structure closer to the road, and I certainly support moving those stairs around to just gain that extra 4 or 5 feet, I think it's 4 feet, would be even more beneficial. I would be comfortable with the plan as it's proposed if they increase the buffer zone vegetation behind the house, so that when there was wave energy coming in from that direction with that coastal A zone, that there is a good vegetated buffer that is going to protect the resource area. The other point is that the reason I shaded on this plan is to just, and I think Ed commented on this at the beginning, is that addition to the structure within the existing deck was approved on the basis that it was elevated above the ground. There was no change to the ground disturbance. But by creating that a solid foundation, that addition has now become an on-the-ground expansion of footprint, which would have been looked at more carefully if that's what had been proposed the first time around, in terms of allowing that within the 35-foot buffer, because of within the bylaw, the 35-foot setback, and certainly a 50-foot setback for expanded habitable space. And I understand that when we reviewed this initially, that's why there was the mitigation that was offered, because of that addition and because of the proposed expansion of the deck as well, which was then moved outside of the 35-foot, which was great. So again, that to me, if that addition is to remain now as an on-the-ground increase in footprint, I would again argue for expanding to the maximum extent possible the buffer zone vegetation between the back of the house and the salt marsh, because that's the interest that we're primarily trying to protect here, is to protect that resource area from any additional wave impacts from a solid foundation and a larger structure.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Do you have any comments on that, Dan?
Well, I see the point. It's just that, we shouldn't lose sight of it. And I think we could agree to an additional strip in the back, but we can't lose back to the point that, it's area that's under a structure, it's shaded. And look at what you're getting back. That whole width of the deck in the house is getting pulled out of the 35. So it's a big improvement over, somebody that came in and was just proposing something new, or was a tear down and rebuild, which this isn't. We're moving the house physically forward. And what you approved before had skirt boards on it right down to the ground, and it would have been, it probably would have been a rat slab under it, just so it didn't get muddy underfoot or whatever. It's just under a house with complete shade, so it's not too much different here. It's there's flood vents, the wind can blow in and out, but it's a little more solid, but it's not a big difference. But I hear you, it's a slight incremental change. And you were very careful about having us pull the proposed deck out of the 35. We did that. This was a compromise with all that extra square footage, was partially for that. But again, what you approved and what you're approving now looks an awful lot the same, especially with respect to the environment. Again, aesthetics aren't your bailiwick, but the environment is, and it was a skirt wall right down to the ground with just tiny little slats in it. Now it's solid with little holes in it for the flood vent. So with an additional 4-foot strip all along the edge, that's a lot of square footage of lawn that we're giving up. Would that be something the board would find palatable?
To the board? Any opinion? So this would be essentially leaving everything we see as it is, and are you moving the steps and then we're just adding the
Correct. The proposal would be to move the steps around to the east side, move the house 4 feet, yet another 4 feet further from the water, and give you a 4-foot strip all along the edge. I think that's a big win for the commission versus what you have now approved. So I would be, if I was on the commission, be very comfortable voting for it. Of course, it's your discretion.
Okay, board members.
This is Pat. I was wondering what you're planning to do with the paved driveway. Is that going to be taken up when you put the new one in?
Yes, 100%. We're going to pull that up.
Thanks.
So this is Ellie. So if I have this correct, the addition was being put up over the deck, but now they want to enclose it with the skirt boards. Is that correct?
So it was always enclosed with skirt boards. Now we're enclosing it with some backing behind the skirt boards of pressure treated wood and plywood. So instead of the piles, it's going to just be a framing system behind the skirt board. But other than that, no change.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Rick.
You know, I could live with this addition if the simple solution for me would be to move the structure right up to the 30-foot limitation for zoning, and then they can reconfigure their decks to be more to the east and solve their problem that way. That way we get the structure right where it should be. Looks like the entire structure would be out of the 35 or right on the 35 at that point.
It looks like an excellent solution to me. This is Tom.
Yeah, but folks, that's a complete redesign of this home. I mean, if you look at it, it's a beautiful wraparound porch. It's, you know, it's just where the existing deck is now. It's a lovely design, and you're already getting, you know, quite a bit of blood out of the stone here. You're moving the whole house well out of the buffer. It's almost exactly what you have approved, except it's going to be 4 feet more. Plus, you get the 4-foot strip in the back. I think as proposed with it moving 4 feet further and a 4-foot strip in the back, because we have to go back and re-engineer this whole thing. I think the owner would probably just put in what he's got approved now, and you wouldn't get all those benefits.
Yeah, the only change would be to replace the pilings with a concrete foundation that would be below grade, and it would the concrete would just be like 8 inches above grade, and then there would be pillars and at some points, and there'll be mostly timber that will be covering, just like what it is before with the skirting. There's essentially no difference at all. The only difference is in the cost of pilings. That's what we are, and we all. I mean, there would be like 9 new pilings that we need to put, and then remove like 4 old pilings. So there's basically no difference at all.
No, there is a difference. You wouldn't get the addition.
Well, to be clear, you know, if we left it as approved right now, the addition is approved. We just have to do a piling system underneath it. What he's saying is that what the proposal is with these slight edits is he's actually going to make piles out of timber, and there'll probably just be some diagonal galvanized cross bracing. Like if you look at the one now, this big timber cross bracing, it'd probably go to a system that had some you know, some diagonal galvanized wires that just, you know, provide the shear strength of the home. So if you look at it in that effect, you know, you've got a little bit of ground disturbance from excavating a 4-foot frost wall, but you know, that's pretty de minimis. And at the end of the day, whether shaking the salt marsh with a pile driver is better or worse is probably a fair question. So it's very little difference, and yet what you're getting is we're moving the whole thing a couple of feet closer. And then, you know, I think the owner would be okay with moving those stairs to the side, so you get another, not only the 1.5 feet, but you get another 4 feet on top of that. So almost 6 feet further closer to New Hampshire, away from the wetland, than what he could do right now under your current approval. You know, the addition is there, everything's the same. It's just that you guys now get a 4-foot new buffer strip in the back, and everything slid another 4 feet, you know, so say 6 feet over the existing approval away from the salt marsh. So that's a nice net positive. I mean, we're dealing with a house that's already here. You know, it's only an area that's under an existing home, and the net amount of house that's within that 35 has gone way down, and we sought the variance, you granted it, and now it's getting even better. And now if with these changes would get yet better yet. But I can't imagine we can afford to go back and redo the whole porch, the whole layout and everything with the architect again for, you know, the net gain of yet just a few more feet. It doesn't seem to be reasonable.
Okay, so you would like us to vote on this revised version that we're talking about. So you're going to be keeping the same footprint overall. You're going to move the fence or the steps over to the east side, and you're going to move the house back by the back toward the New Hampshire Avenue by the same width of the steps that are there, which is approximately 4 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably at least 4.5 feet to the south. So we'll move the stairs, move it 4.5 feet south, plus give you a 4-foot planting strip along the whole back against the salt marsh. So it'll be a nice improvement over even what you're looking at now. That would be the
Okay, so that's what you want us to vote on then tonight, right?
With a conditional approval on those changes, I would sure appreciate it. I think it's reasonable. You know, without a complete tear down and rebuild and re-architecture of everything, I think it's a reasonable. I mean, you've already approved the addition. You know, again, and as the doctor described, the difference underneath is not a full concrete wall, like I said. It's simply changing the framing system from piles to a concrete footing under piers, I would call them, you know, with some bracing. So it's a very similar foundation system. You know, there's some, you know, it's all water resistant. You know, it's made to look like a house, but it isn't. It's just storage space versus a slatted storage space. You know, they still would have put their stuff under there. It's just that now it's a little bit more functional.
All right, I think I heard, was that Paul?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes the stuff gets a little bit abstract in a certain way, but Kelly had made some comments, and I wonder if she could repeat them, because what I'm interested in is, you know, Dan talks about what, you know, we will get, and I'm sure he's accurate, but I want to make sure that what he's saying, what we will get, is also something that in Kelly's description, she thinks complies with her description. You know, complies with her analysis of this entire thing.
And I'd be very willing, you know, Kelly can comment, but you know, it might be behoove us here that if I pass in the revised plan Monday, and we can continue it for 2 weeks and just make sure we're all on the same page, because there are a few little changes here, and I don't want to misrepresent. If I can only go the 4 feet, I'll go the 4, but if I can go full 5, you'll get the 5. I promise to get that full width of the deck to the south. We'll put the 4-foot planting strip on there. You guys can all look at it. You'll see how much better it is, and then have a proper vote in 2 weeks, if that works.
I think that would probably be better. I think that would make the commissioners would be able to see exactly what you're proposing then. I would encourage that personally, and that way we can at least all be on the same page. No confusion, no misunderstandings then.
Right. Yeah.
And if we just clarify in writing as well what that foundation is going to look like, because I feel like we've heard a couple of variations on that. So if we could just have that in writing, so it's going to be clear in the record.
Yeah, I think that, because that is at least politically, it sounds better to have it be basically a wood foundation than a concrete sticking up 8 feet in the air. So would be happy to do that.
Okay, are we good with that then, the commissioners?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Paul, you understand what we're saying there? That'll help what you're asking.
Sorry to butt in. This is Shyla. I'm one of the co-owners, and I just had a quick question for you. We are looking at time here too. So are you saying that this will be now another 2 weeks before anything else can happen? I just didn't understand that last part.
That's correct. We're asking for they're essentially going to get a 2-week continuance so that the plan can be redrawn, showing the 4-foot strip running across the entire back of the yard throughout the addition to the mitigation area already. The steps coming over to the east side, and the entire house structure moving south by the same width of the steps.
Yeah, now because of the weather, that'll get bad. Now, would you be open to, I mean, for the foundation to be concrete instead of the pilings, so that we can worry about the area below the house, we can apply for it at a later time? I mean, it's just a simple, I mean, we are asking for going in with the concrete foundation instead of the pilings. It'll be below grade, and the concrete will be above grade, like about 6 to 8 inches. With the same plan, everything is the same. The only difference would be the concrete foundation.
I think that's what we were explaining. I would like you to present
We
a plan.
haven't, Doctor, we haven't formally requested that. It was, in my judgment, I thought we should move it a little bit closer to the street rather than just change what's existing approved. So what's proposed now is closer to New Hampshire Avenue than than is currently approved. And I think that's the minimum that this commission will accept, is to move it where we have it now. And I think that the minimum that they will accept is to move it an additional 4 feet towards New Hampshire Avenue. The only chance we would have would be to have them verbally approve this, contingent on Kelly, reviewing and approving the revised plans. And we can commit fully to removing the paved driveway, right, Doctor? That's no problem on the paved driveway is to be removed. We're just gonna have the gravel drive.
I'm not going to give any kind of approval. I won't let the board do a voice approval for this sort of thing.
Yeah, so that was my judgment too. So unfortunately, it's just the way it is. It's a complex situation. We've got flood zones, salt marshes, buildings moving. We've got to get this nailed down in black and white so everybody can review it and understand what we're approving. So we'll make it a good bit better than even what's now, and I'll get that in early next week, and we'll, in 2 weeks, should have an approval on it. And if not, you can obviously pull a permit on what you have now. That's an acceptable alternative if you want to get going.
Okay.
Is that what you're telling us? I'm sorry, I just want to be clear about this.
We have to have a plan in which we can vote. If you want us to vote on this plan right here and now, we can certainly do that.
No, I'm just asking because I'm a little confused with this change.
Or you can.
I just want to know, so we pull this and give you the plan with the steps to the side, the 4 foot extra for the back, and the concrete foundation with the timber reinforcements or whatever, or as that is. And then based on that, that's going to be, you want to see the actual plan before you say anything in 2 weeks. Is
That's
that
right.
I just want to be clear on this.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right. As long as, I just was a little confused because I was following it and then suddenly I wasn't following it. So it's going to be a 2 week continuance, and then it gets submitted to you, and then you will let us know.
No, we're going to submit it, not tomorrow, but Monday. They're going to have the plans in their hands, and they're going to vote on it in 2 weeks from today.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I just want to understand the thing.
Yeah, and we'll get an up or down vote on that day, and we can talk offline if there's other options. I think we're kind of boxed in here with the most we can do. But a 2 week continuance is very reasonable. Most boards will give you a month, and so this one's a good board. They're going to do it in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're all set then, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right.
I make a motion that we continue until November 17th.
19th.
19th, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Tom, for seconding. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously to continue to November 19th.
Okay,
good.
great.
Thank you,
I'll get
Kelly.
this in
Thank you,
early next
Dan.
week. Thank you, folks.
All right, thanks, Dan. Get that plan as quick as you can. That would be appreciated.
Will do.
Okay, thank you, Dan. All right, next order of business is a request for an extension. This is for SE 83-2120 40 Crosby Street Extension, Yarmouth, Massachusetts.
I
Do we have somebody here or?
Yeah, I've unmuted the Lukes.
Good evening, board members. This is Arthur and Christina Luke. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Luke. So we're looking for an extension. This has not been extended before, is that right, Kelly?
It has not been extended before, no. It did
Okay.
expire back in September, but under the executive order, permits are not expiring at the moment with the state of emergency.
Okay, so we're still good with that way. What is the holdup? What's the reason for the extension then?
You're looking for an answer from us, obviously?
Yeah, sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Luke, yeah.
Well, first of all, we kind of thought we were a year away from closing this up. We've done quite a few of the requests, but we also have a new twist with our oldest daughter getting married, and we were hoping to do that, or the plan is to do that on the property next fall, Labor Day weekend. And so that's kind of our new slowdown component.
So what is left to do then? What part of the project is left to do? Why do you need the extension?
I think some of the mitigation will just encroach the lawn space where we're hoping to set up a tent. It's quite a bit of mitigation.
Is the mitigation area then? You were supposed to be putting in a mitigation area?
Correct.
And you haven't done that yet?
That part of it, no.
We've done a
And that's
portion.
the only thing
We've done a portion of it.
But that's the only thing that you have left to do is the mitigation planting?
I can't speak to that. Let me look at our list here.
I believe that is it.
We just recently did the,
We did this piece right here.
yeah, I'm not sure what that's called.
The mitigation piece is all that's left.
So
Everything
you have not done any of the mitigation planting, or you've done some of the mitigation
We've
planting?
done some.
Okay, so what is some?
Where
you see
there was,
Can you see the screen right now?
Yes,
I
sir.
can.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, so what if we're looking at the mitigation area, what part is in at this point?
I believe it's just the core logs.
the core logs and whatever plantings were supposed to be right there. Just got finished last week. So you have that
Correct.
picture
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly, could you go back to the plan again to see where that is? That's down. Let's see, where are we here?
Yes, it's way down near the walkway.
This area where the cursor is, if you can see that.
Okay, so it looks as though the mitigation planting area should actually be based on what I saw on the photos. Maybe I was looking incorrect. I didn't see everything correctly, but it seems to me as though you've got green lawn going much further down than what it's supposed to be. Is that right?
That's
Well,
correct.
that's always been existing. That's always been there since I've been alive. But we know that that has to come off and be mitigated.
So,
It's Ed, right?
yes.
Okay, so Ed, I grew up here. My parents brought me home from the hospital to this location. And I have pictures all the way back to 1940 that show the lawn all the way down. And I do realize that with the house and the mitigation that's requires removing the existing lawn.
Okay, so I mean, if that's all we have left to do, then it doesn't seem as though you need an incredibly long extension for this. It seems to, I would be looking at it and saying you could probably get all of this done by the end of June.
By the end of when?
By the end of June?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, by the end of June. Well,
So, I want to concentrate on what Sam needs, our daughter, for her wedding. And I haven't even begun to explore yet with companies for the size wedding, which will be about 150 people, what I need for tent space.
If we can have 150 people, obviously, under the
You know.
current conditions, but. So
So what
Yeah,
you're asking is for us to ignore the order as we have it written and allow you to keep the lawn for the wedding, and then you'll go back and do it?
Immediately.
Is that what you're
Correct,
trying
yeah.
to tell me?
Yes, but obviously if the wedding's next September, this would have to, be,
So now you're
after the wedding or in the spring of 22.
So if it's a Labor Day weekend, that gives you maybe 2 months to get the all of the mitigation area completely planted then. Or you'd have to be looking for another, probably like you're looking at almost 2 years now for a 2-year extension then. Is that
Correct. It doesn't need to be
correct?
3 years. Yeah, but if I'm looking at my wife, because I don't see a problem pulling that together right after the wedding. That's your
So
call.
I think, no.
But
All right, so you're asking for 3 years, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what
All right,
I was looking for, which I read in the conditions that we were capable of requesting for a 3-year.
All right, commissioners, any comments, concerns, questions?
So just to get this understanding, the wedding is this coming Labor Day.
2021, correct.
Okay, and you want to have the wedding where the proposed mitigation plantings are. And the day after the wedding, you take the tent down and you would start to grow the wildflower meadow or whatever else is needed.
Well,
Is that-
hopefully not the day after the wedding, but within that week.
Okay, and it could be done by growing season by November.
I'm
That's what
I'm still looking for a 2-year window. 3 years, I understand you wouldn't want to do, but a 2-year window would probably be nice.
Can I ask a question? Ed?
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, how long has this plan, how long have they had to this point? I understand the whole need to get to keep it the way it is so they can have the wedding, but how long has this whole thing been going on from the construction to this particular point? 3 years?
Yes.
And considering when I did reach out to Kelly and inform her that we've been working exceptionally hard. We were considered an essential business. We've been going nonstop. And I did inform her that we've had little, next to no time to monitor outside projects.
Okay, so unless there's any further discussion amongst the board, I think we're looking for a motion to extend this permit for 2 years. That's what they're looking to do?
That'd be acceptable, yes.
And back dates, are we talking about 2 years? When is 2 years?
Well, 2 years starts, well, essentially 2 years is going to start at the end of the COVID crisis, essentially.
Okay.
Plus 45 days to be technical.
Yeah, I hear you. We need it to stop.
So right now, the executive order it basically says there are no the orders of conditions all continue as they are until 45 days after the COVID emergency has been declared over. So at that point, then you would have you would have to start dealing with all of the extensions then at that point. So
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest that you choose a date rather than 2 years from, because we need to put a date on the order and we can't say 2 years beyond the end of the 45 days. So if we actually chose a date 2 years from now, and just made that the expiry date, that would make it simpler in terms of managing the order.
22.
Okay, so how's November 2023 then? Is that right? No, 2022.
22.
22.
Yep, that works for us.
Okay, do I have a motion to that effect to,
Can-
extend this permit to November 1st, 2022?
Could I just make another comment before the motion, if Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Sorry. I just wanted to also call out that we appear to have lost some trees during the construction. I did a rough count, and this may not be 100% accurate, but I marked with the ticks and the crosses the ones that seem to be there and not there. So the mitigation planting should include the replacement of any trees that have been lost during the construction process. So the
would
ones that are
agree.
Yeah, I
marked
mean,
with an X.
Yeah, I see that,
no.
that one at the, I'm sorry to interrupt, that one that I see at the driveway area, that came down in that big winter storm. Unfortunately, we had not wished for that to come down, but it did, and took power lines down, everything with it. So I'm trying to see where else there's another tree.
I think this one and this one here may be around the wrong way, but I think there's,
That came down during construction.
yeah, so it would need to be replaced.
Yeah, right.
When they were throwing dirt and everything
Yeah,
up
right.
over there.
And there's one down here in the mitigation area, and then there was
That
a
one came
couple-
down during the hurricane. I have pictures of that.
Yeah, that unfortunate. Yeah, that was last fall in the tornado. That
Or
little,
the-
whatever
yeah,
that
the
was.
tornado
That's
came
what took
through.
that down. But yeah, those are all, we understand those need to be replaced. They weren't by, well, that one on the the edge there, that one came down from the little, whatever that was, twister. The other one was the winter storm. The other one was, I think, an error on the excavation of the site. So is that 3 trees, Kelly?
And then there's some along, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we addressed those, but there's about 4 trees along the stretch here.
Yeah,
And the
Those
tree
are all
here.
still in.
we've done some limb management, but I don't know if any
I did a
trees.
count of trees
Okay.
based on what's there and what's
Okay.
here. So as long as it matches the number of trees that are on this plan.
Yeah, I understand. So we'll just
Um,
make sure that we replace.
And then just the other concern I have is that where vegetation has been removed, the area is quite unstable. So I would suggest that these actually get addressed in the short term in terms of putting down some matting or getting them planted in the spring, just because that's going to affect the stability of the bank there with the bulkhead.
Yeah, I think they need to put some jute matting down right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could kind of basically just start whatever mitigation's supposed to go there and just, we could get that done. That's been kind of an area of,
It's not going to be used at all.
yeah,
So
it's a bunch of bricks and stuff under there. Someone used it as a dumping ground. Yeah, I don't know, 60 years ago. So it's got a lot of junk in there per se. And of course, all the sticks that the osprey bring back and just, they end up on the ground there daily. So it's a hodgepodge of things down there.
Okay, so do we have a motion then to extend to November 1st, 2022 with to with the addition of the erosion control, the jute matting on the lower portions of the exposed ground toward the southeast of the property, and to ensure that the trees that are missing, that the trees match what's on the plan of record.
So moved.
I didn't hear who did. Second, David? myself, John.
Okay, so David and Tom. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop,
Nay.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Nay.
Hoops,
Nay.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
So motion carries 4-3.
All right. All right, thank you, Kelly. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Luke. And so
you.
you're all set with that then?
Yes, thank you very
Yes.
much.
Have a nice night.
Next order of business are certificates of compliance. So I'm going to take things a little out of order. So what I'd like to do is with the easy COCs, we'll do this all in one lump sum. So if I would have a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SE 83-52 and SE 83-57, 327 Great Island Road, for SE 83-016 Sweetheart Creek dredging, for SE 83-1596 Sweetheart Creek, for SE 83-1858 Sweetheart Creek, for SE 83-1960 Sweetheart Creek, for SE 83-1778 for 29 and 37 Bass River Road, for SE 83-2045 45 Mooring Lane, and for SE 83-2211 40 Constance Avenue.
So moved.
Thank you, Rick. Is there a second?
Second, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, commissioners. Next order is another certificate of compliance for SE 83-1150 23 Salt Meadow Road. And Kelly, are there any issues with that?
Sorry, should we go back to Powers Lane? Number
Do you
10
want to
on
do
the
Powers
agenda?
Lane first?
Oh, sorry, we can go Salt Meadow Road. Yeah, here's Salt Meadow Road.
Oh,
That
sorry.
one.
I'm sorry. I
Sorry,
keep
I'm just
getting it.
going in the order of my slides.
Sure, just go ahead. We'll keep you on your toes that way.
All right, I'll just grab the file. Okay, so this one came about. The property owner is looking to replace the pool that is here on the image with a larger pool. And so when I took a look at the file, I found that there was an outstanding order of conditions. The work appears to have been carried out per the order of conditions largely, with the exception that there are no no downspouts to dry wells on this property. It is a fairly large property, and there is a lot of vegetation on the property, particularly buffer vegetation between the property, the road, and then vegetation along the bank and the resource area. I don't see any issues with runoff, but the order of conditions does include gutters and downspouts to dry wells, which are not present at the property. So I'm just bringing that to your attention before you take your votes.
Okay, I don't think it looks all that required, to be honest with you, but
there is a lot of space around the house for infiltration, so
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah. Anybody on the commission have any issues with this? If not, could I get a motion to approve the COC for SE 83-1190 or 1150? Sorry.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Ellie.
Second, Pat.
Thank you, Pat. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Oops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion to issue the certificate of compliance carries unanimously.
Okay. And then our last certificate of compliance for the evening is continued from October 1st, 2020 for SE 83-1767 7 Powers Lane in Yarmouth. I believe there was an issue with the path being covered.
Yeah, so this was one you may recall where the driveway, and these two photos might mess with your mind a little. In the center is the shell driveway, which used to be a paved driveway, and there was retaining walls up the sides here, and paving all the way up to that wall, and there was paving all the way up the side of the house here. So the commission chose not to issue the certificate of compliance and asked that those be removed. So this work has been done since that meeting. They've removed the driveway, put in a shell driveway. They've removed the retaining wall and the paving in this area and added sand and beach grasses. And then there was a pathway down the side of the steps here that led down to the dune area. I found that pathway had been buried rather than removed, and I saw evidence of the steps underneath the sand. So I went back and asked them to rectify that before the meeting. So today they had them remove the sand and the beach grasses, remove the steps, and then put the grass and the beach grasses and sand back in. And I went out and verified this afternoon that that had been completed. So I'm now comfortable with issuing the certificate of compliance for this work.
Well done, Kelly.
Yeah, that's a good catch. That's a that's a good catch. I'm impressed. We'll have you take an extra $5 out of petty cash for the effort. Any questions amongst the commission?
Yeah, I walked there a number of times. I did notice they did the work right away, but I also noticed other driveways had the same issue. Any comment, Kelly?
So there's probably a combination of work that was approved, work that predated the regulations maybe, and work that is a violation, which will probably come up as people close out their orders of condition. I'd say there's a combination, but yes, you're right. There are some other properties that are in similar condition.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Let me have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for SE 83-17677 Powers Lane.
So moved.
Thank you, Rick. Is there a second?
Second.
I don't. Was that Pat or was that Ellie?
Sorry, that's Ellie.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Ellie. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop?
Aye.
Durkin?
Aye.
Bernstein?
Aye.
Lawrence?
Aye.
Hoops?
Aye.
Huggins?
Aye.
Mulhern?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously to issue the certificate of compliance.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. We're going to move on then to enforcement orders. This is an enforcement order issue. You're looking for ratification for enforcement order for 310 South Shore Drive.
Okay, so this was a reported violation that I met with the property owner on site to take a look at the area of violation, and as you can see in this image, the red line estimates the area of clearing. It was a mix of, I understand it was a mix of shrubs and invasive vines. I think there was a tree removed in this area here by the contractor when they were trying to remove vines from the trees there. So I discussed the violation with the property owner, who is in the audience, and have drafted an enforcement order that includes the restoration of the area with plantings. And I have asked for a notice of intent to manage the area for invasive species moving forward, because obviously the invasive species that have been removed are going to come back fairly quickly. So I thought it was good to move on getting the area restored in the short term, and then include longer term management of the area. So I think you have a copy of the draft enforcement order. And I'll just show you the plan on the left-hand side was a sketch landscape plan amendment that was included within the order of conditions that had been previously issued for this property. So just to show you the area of clearing in relation to the wetland resource areas. And then these are some photos up the top here. is starting off on this side of the property. There's like a bank area here, and then the photos work their way around in this direction. So this is this bank area here has been planted with beach grasses to stabilize it because there is a slope here, and that work had already been done when I went out on site. And then the rest of this area had been cleared, working around to here. This is the edge of the salt marsh. There is some debris piled down in this area on the edge of the resource area, and they did plan to plant some beach grasses to stabilize that slope as well in that location in the short term, while the restoration plan was put together for the rest of the site. And then this is the area of the trees that is in this location here along the side of the house. So just looking for if you have any amendments to the enforcement order. If the property owner is in the audience, if you wanted to hear from them, and then just if you wanted to make any changes to that enforcement order.
Okay.
I mean, this is certainly not the way to state this, but if we had the ability to throw the book at this applicant, I would find a way to do it. I can't even count the number of times this fellow has been before us with violations and not finishing plans. This has gone on for years. It's extremely unsatisfying.
I would say I 100% agree with you there, Rick. I mean, I would, to be honest with you, I would be, I'm speechless. I mean, I don't understand how somebody who has gone through all of the history with the commission and under all of the other enforcement issues that have gone on with this property, I don't understand how somebody can even think about doing this. I'm with you. If I could throw the book at you, I would throw the book at you. If I could figure out how to get you to the $25,000 mark on the fine with a maximum fine, I would do it in a minute because this is ridiculous. I mean, I would. So this is all buffer. That's right, Kelly? There was no resource area that was impacted.
Correct. Apart from perhaps that bank area immediate along the edge of the resource area there, because it slopes down at that point, so it would probably be considered to be a coastal bank at that point.
Okay, so I think the one thing I would recommend is that we require a SERP certified consultant to do all of the restoration and continued invasive work for the into the future. That would be my first comment on that. Do we have dates on this yet? Have we set dates? So I'm sorry, but
I haven't put a date for, so I guess we've got a couple of dates. We need a date for when the restoration plan should be submitted to us for approval, and then a date for starting and completing the work. So I'm assuming a spring 2021 start date for the work to be started, and then you just need to set a date for when that work should be completed. And then a date for when a notice of intent would need to be filed for the rest of the work.
I think we should probably go for what, to do like a December 31st for the deadline for the restoration plan.
Sorry, what was that? November 31st?
I think December 3rd.
December 31st. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, that November is nearly nearly a third of the way done. So I would say December, because the likelihood of having a SERP certified person be able to do anything faster would be unlikely. So I would say December 31st for the restoration plan. I'd say early spring then for the initiation of restoration.
And because there's different planting seasons, we could look at spring and fall to get that completed.
Yeah, I think you might want to. I guess we'd also have to consult the SERP as to what would work out best for the plan, but.
And I guess that could be determined once the plan is received and
Yeah.
to be reviewed, that condition could be included.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we might want to consider adding is have the SERP do an initial report, essentially an assessment report before they even get to the restoration plan, just to let us know how much area was exactly impacted, essentially to do an existing condition, so we can see exactly what was damaged, what resource buffers were damaged, and to have a report as to what kind of vegetation we're talking about. So, and if there were any trees that were impacted or taken down. So we might want to do that for maybe the first week of December, and then that would be used to fuel the restoration plan.
Okay.
We got a second, Ed?
Oh yeah, Tom.
Yeah. If we look at the picture on the lower left, Kelly told us that was an area that was critical. If we divide these various areas and say that the cuttings of vegetation approaching that restricted area, why can't we issue a fine particularly for that area? Do you understand what I mean? Am I being clear?
Yeah, so you could look at I guess different activities. If there was a tree removal, if there was buffer zone removal, and there was removal in a resource area.
Yeah,
And
there's
that would be three
the
different
resource, it's been removed from the resource area, and that is subject to a fine. And that fine can be reimposed as we move along if he doesn't do something there, regardless of the plan, which is necessary, the restoration and the dates and everything. But I do think he's particularly responsible for that area by the left lower picture.
Oh yeah, I without a doubt, I think he needs a fine. That's for sure.
All right, good.
Yeah, that's that's definitely coming one way that like I said, I wish we had a little bit better structure to, I mean, we could look at it if there are trees, we could take it on a per tree basis. We could add fines for a per tree basis, but certainly as a very minimum, as you're saying, Tom, we should include at least one fine currently for the current work, and then if he doesn't meet those deadlines, that would be additional fines for failure to comply.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed.
Ed?
Paul, is that
Paul? Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah. Just need a reminder on this. Now, could we ask who did the work, and also if it was a landscaping company or whatever, do we have the ability to find that company?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can certainly do that. In fact, that's going to be one of my first questions.
Do we know who did the work?
Well, I think. And do we have any questions? Any other specific questions for Kelly at this point, or because I think we'll bring Mr. Safford in at this point and ask him to explain it.
Thank you.
Okay, I will allow him to speak. Okay. You should be able to unmute yourself now, Howard.
Okay, Mr. Safford?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you.
I'd like to address something that a couple of folks remarked about, that I've been before you numerous times on violations. I have never been before you on any violation. I don't know if you're getting it confused with our getting the certificate of occupancy through you folks. 3 or 4 years ago when we built the property, but I have never had a violation. We had a number of issues in just coming up with a plan with Kieran Healy assisting, and came up with that final plan that I actually drew up for that property. And that's been intact for years. And we've never been before the board for any kind of violation. Everything was just to get the property approved.
Okay, so I will grant you that it was not a violation. You were not given a violation or a citation, but you were in violation of the order of conditions. So.
And we did issue a violation notice.
For what?
I think it was for a violation of the order of conditions for
Yes.
Erosion sediment control.
Oh, the silt fence around the property?
Yeah, I think that a
Yeah.
violation notice was issued.
That blew down on a daily basis. We had RDA, the modular company out of Sagamore, build the property, and they went bankrupt, and the owner committed suicide because he was ripping everybody off for millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
okay, so
Anyway,
we remember the history of it, and that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about here, and has nothing to do with the fact that you were in violation back then and you're in violation now. Is that
I
correct?
understand. And if I may just, by way of explanation, talk about what we did. This entire backyard was knotweed. It was 12 to 15 feet high. It was more than like a jungle. They were 3 inches apart, and it is an incredibly invasive plant that was coming up toward our house. I had read some articles, a number of them out of Great Britain, where it showed these things, and they pierce through concrete foundations and come up inside people's houses. We were constantly pulling them up in the stones surrounding our house outside the buffer zone, just to try to keep them at bay, because the rhizomes underground are sent out, and clusters of them come up. So that's why we cut down that, and we planned on doing mitigation when we got the violation. As you can see, we've already planted hundreds of plugs of beach grass on the far left, and on the right-hand side along the water there that Ms. Grant has mentioned. We're coming down this weekend. I've ordered a straw wattle to go along there, as Ms. Grant and we discussed, and that will be in place this weekend. And she had given us an exception to the cease and desist to plant the beach grass along, continue doing that along that area right there. The entire backyard is a flat area, and we, except for the left-hand side, which has the rise there, and we removed debris and bottles and bricks and all kinds of building materials and other materials that had been there for decades from the resorts across the street. We bought the property from a resort, and it was a dumping ground for many things back there that we removed in the process. And on the right-hand side, you see the patch of woods. And I sent pictures to Ms. Grant of the clusters of bittersweet vines that would just climb up our trees right there and just swarm around and envelop our trees. And you can see, I submitted some pictures. I don't see them here. Yeah, okay. There's the beach grass. This is reflective of what's in that woods that we were trying to cut out. This is all bittersweet. And it was killing our sassafras trees and others in that area. And we were trying to stop it. And that's primarily what was done in that area, is cutting out these giant clusters of the bittersweet vines in the wooded area right there. Some of them were stripped down from trees, and there's a picture of another tree in here. If you can cycle through, there's one. This is a dead tree that's been there since before we bought the property, and you can see how invasive those vines are. It killed that tree, and you can still see the remains up above in the tree of the vines that were there. This is what we were trying to address, and I didn't do it the right way. It was stupid of me. A friend of mine that's on a conservation commission here sent me a WPA, and looking at it, I understand the huge mistake that we made. We thought we were doing something good. We intended to spend thousands of dollars to mitigate and replace this with everything from low growing junipers to uprights and a number of other plants that are natives that we've already talked to a horticulturist about. But what we wanted to do in the fall was try to get rid of the knotweed, because it doesn't matter how many times you cut it down, it will come right back up. In the spring, this entire area, these vines will grow back up the trees. The knotweed will grow back in and just become the same jungle it is, I would wager by May. And it was our intention to try to address this.
Okay, Mr. Safford?
Yes.
Do you know your house is in the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act?
Yes.
Right, because you already filed with us before. You've already mentioned that you have a long history of filing with the Conservation Commission in Yarmouth. So you knew full well that the area was in a jurisdiction to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Well, I hadn't read that. What I had been reading was even the website for Conservation Commission addresses the invasives, and it mentions, the first and foremost, the knotweed and the bittersweet.
Yeah,
And
nowhere in the Wetlands Protection Act or in any of those other things does it say that you have the right to go ahead and cut down and mow everything down within a jurisdictional area without permit.
I understand that.
Who did the work for you, sir?
We did the work. There was an individual that was up here from Venezuela, and my wife with small brush cutters, electric brush cutters.
And loppers.
And-
This is
and
Mary Jo
loppers.
Stafford speaking.
And
I find that hard to believe. I really find that hard to believe.
You
You
can believe
did
that,
all
sir.
of that work.
Yes, you can believe that.
We did that in preparation for the fall, because that's the point in time when you need to address the knot and these other vines, when the nutrients are going back down into the rhizomes underground, and they go 50 feet down. So the only other alternative to killing it in this way, by either depriving it of photosynthesis or hitting it with a glyphosate in the fall. That's the time it's done. The fall is the only time that we could get these plugs to replace.
Did you apply glyphosate or another herbicide?
Just got them a week before we got the violation.
I'm sorry.
I used brush cutters, lopper to dig out what I could, and truly that it's been done by me. I'm a very sturdy girl and very determined, and I'm so sorry, honestly. There isn't any way I can beg the commission's forgiveness, This is not a usable backyard. We were never looking to have it made to be a usable backyard. I don't want it as a usable backyard. In fact, you implored us not even to have grass in the front of our house, and we have all rock. We were just looking to get rid of this horror of an invasive species and plant. We have a beautiful list from the horticulturist from one of the local yards here to plant native species to Cape Cod, and we've been poring over that, trying to get their the type of what they grow in, when they can be planted, that sort of thing. And truly, that is what we are looking to do. It is not a serviceable backyard. It is not we've had a view from the beginning. It's not a clearing for a view. It's just to get rid of that awful knotweed.
Yeah, this was not done to enhance a view. We had a view. Our deck and house are at like a 12 or 13 level and elevation. And we looked over all of this to start with. This had nothing to do with improving a view. We just wanted to replace it.
Oh,
the junipers, that picture you just saw, the birds love the junipers, the wildlife love the junipers, and we had just started to do the mitigation when we got the,
and we're sick to our stomach
desist.
about what knotweed does. It encroaches so much. It's encroached over on the fence, so I got that all pulled out. The knotweed's our enemy.
Well, that was the bittersweet.
Yeah.
The bittersweet on the fence was pulling it down.
All right, I'm going to let the rest of the commission have any questions, if they have any questions for the homeowners. Any questions at all?
Thank you.
Commissioners? No. No further discussion?
Well, this is Ellie, and tearing that all out, I understand it's very invasive, but if you don't do it properly, it's just going to come back more aggressive, and it should have been brought before us to have it done properly so that they don't have this ongoing condition. Right now, whatever they plant there is just going to be invaded by these things because it stimulates the roots and makes them grow more, as far as I remember.
Well, I understand that, but if you hit it with the glyphosates at this stage, in like the first or second section, it's like bamboo, and if you put the glyphosates in there in the fall, then it draws it back down into the ground. And it takes 2 or 3 years to do that, from what I've read. And it's illegal to have it on your property in Great Britain. You can't sell your property with that. You wouldn't be able to sell your property if your neighbor had it in their yard. And it just scared the heck out of us that, because we saw what it was doing coming toward our foundation. That's why we just, we're going to try and get rid of it and put vegetation in there that was more friendly to wildlife and animals and birds, and make it something that would be a good habitat, as opposed to what the knotweed was, because the natives can't thrive in that. The vines were killing our trees, and the native stuff, it just doesn't have a chance to fight against these two invasives. But that's truly what we had in mind. I understand that we did this without getting permission from the commission. We thought we were doing a good thing, and obviously it was a big mistake. And I'd like to be able to spend thousands of dollars in addressing this, starting in the spring. And we're coming in tomorrow, and I've already ordered the straw wattle, and that will be in place by this weekend, as well as the hundreds more of the beach grass along the short area of shoreline.
Can I ask you a question? When you took this out, were you planning on putting the glyphosate in there to remove it? Because you need a professional to do that. And you're so close to the wetlands, so this whole eradication was not per protocol to eradicate it. It was just to level it, and I don't know.
We hadn't gotten to that stage yet, and as I said, I also read where just depriving it of its leaves and any photosynthesis can also starve the rhizomes underground and eradicate the plant.
Yes, that will probably take 5 to 7 years
Yeah, we tried it.
Well,
We didn't get anywhere with it. We blue tarped it for, I don't know, from May to September.
The problem here is that this is the problem that because you're not qualified to do this kind of work under these circumstances. What you may very well have done was make the problem worse, and it could just make it. The problem with knotweed is if you cut, even if you just leave a little piece of knotweed, leaf, stem, stalk, root, anything on the ground, you're going to have more knotweed growing up. So, I mean, at this point, is there any further discussion from the commissioners? Anybody else have any other questions? If not, would we like to start working on the ratification of the enforcement order? I think we were talking about a $300 fine for the cutting. That would be the first thing. Is that correct, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. We're also going to be requiring that a SERP certified ecological restoration person be responsible for doing a initial report and preparing a restoration plan. And that's to be done by, what do we say, November, or the first week of December for the report, and December 31st for the restoration plan.
I'm going to say December 4th for the initial report, and then
Okay,
December 31st for December 31st, yeah, for the restoration plan.
Okay, so 12/4 by the for the initial plan, and then 12/31. No, I'm sorry, 12/4 for the report and 12/31 for the plan.
So the initial report should include the survey plan with the existing conditions on it. And then the restoration plan on the 31st. So it would come to the commission in between then. I'm just looking at the dates.
I know I've been speaking to Kieran Healy. He said they're extremely busy, and I had hoped to have him with us this evening, but he had a conflict with Dennis.
So we have a December 3rd meeting and a December 17th meeting. So do you want something to review at a meeting first before the restoration plan?
Yeah, well, actually, you could put both together. You could do the report and the restoration plan sometime in January.
So if we received them by the deadline for the January meeting, we have a December 22nd deadline for January 7th and January 7th deadline for January 21.
Yeah, so I think
December
I'd like to go for the first one in January.
So we'll go December 22nd deadline for January 7th.
That gives them 6 weeks to have a restoration plan. That may be pushing it for them to have for a SERP to have a restoration plan done, but we can aim for that. And if not, then go for January 7th.
So at least the initial report should definitely be done by that date.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean, the
even-
initial report could be done earlier.
Mhm.
I mean, I would think that any of the SERPs are going to want to have that done as quickly as possible anyhow, so they have time to work on the plan.
Okay, and then based on the restoration plan, you can set the timeline for the work being completed.
Right.
And then after the plan, at the point of the plan, the notice of intent could then be filed for ongoing management of the property, but that could be addressed once we have the restoration plan. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think
So
once let's get the restoration plan approved and going, and then we can address the long-term management.
Okay, so I'll make a note to that effect in the enforcement order that the notice of intent shall be filed once the restoration plan has been reviewed by the commission.
Right. I mean, we could almost make. We'll talk about that later. I think we can talk about that separately. But so we're good on 12.4 for the initial report, 12.22 for the restoration plan. Is that right?
Okay, yeah, 12. So 12 4th and then 12 22nd, yep, for the plan.
Okay, and if we have to change, then we can address that. If we get something from the SERP saying there's no way I can get this done by the 22nd, we can push it to the January 7th then.
Okay.
All right, and then also, so to the Saffords, do you understand we are looking for a SERP certified landscape professional, ecological restoration person? So that's SERP is certified ecological restoration practitioner. They have to have the SERP certification in order to put the plan together and to do the report. Is that, do you understand that?
Yes. Could you say those initials again? It was Certified Ecological Restoration Practitioner?
Right, CERP. Okay,
Okay.
that's SERP. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
And there are several on Cape, and I think there's 40 all told in 30 in Massachusetts. So
okay.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, BSC has one on staff.
Okay, we'll have to find them.
yeah, I'm not sure if I don't know. Are you talking about Hannah Raditz? I don't think there may be a SERP certified person on BSC. You would just have to ask them. But if they're not SERP certified, then they can work as a secondary agent, but they can't be the ones who are overseeing the entire project.
All right, but there are SERPs on the Cape.
You said
There are 3 that I know of right off the top of my head. Well, in fact, I know there are 3. There are 3 on Cape Cod.
3 on Cape Cod. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But could I just clarify something again? You know, when we got a violation, evidently way back when, RDA was running the show. We're 3 hours away. We didn't know. We weren't there for weeks at a time. You know, they were supposed to be addressing everything in the yard, everything at the house, and we relied upon them. Unfortunately, they weren't reliable. But you know, it's not the situation that we're somebody that, you know, violates this or takes it cavalierly. This was a big mistake, no question about it, and we should pay a fine for that. And I'm certainly not gonna argue that. But the fact of the matter is, it was our intention to do the right thing for the wildlife, for the property, for
I'm going to stop you right there. It's like, you know, if your intention was to do the right thing, then you would have at the very least, you would have contacted Kelly and asked her about what was going on. You knew full well that you lived within the jurisdiction, that your entire property was
I
within
agree.
the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission and the Wetlands Protection Act. You chose not to do that. You chose not to do that. So don't tell me that you had every intention. Your intention was to make an end run around it and not have to go through the permitting.
I'm sorry, we lost everything there.
Of course.
I know we were, I'm
So
so
again,
sorry,
I
but
was saying that you had all the opportunity. You knew full well that your entire property was in the jurisdiction of Conservation Commission of the Wetlands Protection Act. You had every chance to sit there. Had you had the intention to do the right thing, then you would have gone to Kelly and asked her, how do we go about doing this? But you chose to do an end run around the permitting process and took on the idea that you were going to do all of this work, knowing full well that you were in jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. So, you know, it has nothing to do with RDA. It has nothing to do with the house
I agree.
5-10 years ago. This was all done. That what we're talking about now is the damage that you've done to the buffer, to the resource. And yes, you will have to, you will be given a fine for that. And frankly, I think you are getting away pretty cheaply that way in terms of the fines, because I just think like I said, I'm not going to go further into it. I think you're getting a fine because you chose to ignore the regulations, and that's what it stands for.
I understand.
All right. Is there any further discussion among the commission?
No. Let's move the question.
What's question?
No, let's move
the
it.
question.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to ratify the enforcement order with the amendments as discussed?
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Ellie and Rick, for seconding. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Bishop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Kelly, do you need a separate one for the fine, or that's all wrapped up?
Was the fine was included in the motion? I would.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Safford, thank you very much. Please keep in touch with what's going on, and be aware that those deadlines are coming up. They come up very quickly. So to hire a good SERP, you need to start doing that right away, so they can get their schedule cleared for it. All right.
Sorry, I think I muted them, so I'm sure they're saying yes.
Okay.
My mistake.
I don't know if that would last there, but anyhow, so our next order of business is approval of minutes for October 16th, October 15th, 2020.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the commission meeting minutes as written, with a couple of very small corrections. In fact, there were only 4 of them. And would it be appropriate for me to specify those right now? We'll get them out of the way.
No, Tom, just send me a email on where I have to tweak them.
Okay.
Second.
Good.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, David. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Yes, Rick.
Yeah, I'm laughing.
Next order of business is.
Before we go on, Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that I did not take typing. I took auto mechanics. So this is a whole new thing for me.
Mr.
You're doing a
Chair,
great job.
Hey, Ellie, we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And I know Kelly is phenomenally happy that you're taking on the responsibility of doing minutes. There's one who has to. I only have to do minutes once a month, and I'm supposed to already have mine done, but you can see that I haven't done anything for the most recent meetings.
Well, one of these days you'll get one that says, we met, we talked, we left.
That's it. Just make sure you go back and read what exactly has to be done for the minutes. It's a big surprise to see what little has to be put into a minute, into the official minutes, Ellie. It's just going to give you that piece of advice.
Okay, so
thank you very much.
We'll move on.
Appreciate what you've done, Ellie, very much.
And thank you to Tom for always reading through everything for us. So I appreciate that.
That's a double check for me.
All right, so our last order of business is to approve the 2021 meeting schedule and meeting time.
So, yeah, we needed to agree the meeting time. The old schedule has 6:30 on it still, and I know 4:30 has been a challenge for Ed at least. So I wanted to float the idea of a 5 p.m. start moving forward.
Would 5:30 be better for Ed?
Actually, I think 5 will do it perfectly fine. That's perfectly good for me. It's like I've just during COVID, I have been having an issue. I have not had to worry about it because I'm oftentimes at home working from home. But as we're starting to transition, I've got responsibilities at the office that keeps me there directly until 4:30. So,
okay.
But I can certainly make it by 5 with not an issue at all there. So if 5 is good, I would.
Sounds all right by me.
5 then.
5
As long as they cater to the hearings, it's fine.
Fine by
Turn off
me.
your camera.
So we're all good on that then.
Yeah.
You don't need a motion for that, do you?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
right.
I think we may need a motion because it's a public record.
Okay, there you go. Did you just make a motion?
Yes, I did.
Second.
Rick seconded. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Have we any other business to discuss? Kelly, you have anything, or any of the commissioners have any questions, or?
I will tell you that I finished my foundation courses under your order, Ed, and I'm all done and certified, or whatever they call it.
You've gotten your certificate?
Well, I haven't got the certificate in the mail yet, but I have been told I received it.
That's good. Well, congratulations, David. That's a nice milestone. So,
and I learned one or two things too.
And that's even better if you could take something away from it.
Hey, this is Pat, and I want to say something. I finished my foundation courses also.
All right, Pat.
Congratulations, Pat. There you go. Congratulations to Pat as well.
Well, I know how to identify poison ivy.
All right. Well, now.
Rash on your leg, Ellie.
I was going to say, do you just rub up against the vegetation and wait 3 days or wait 2 days to
yeah, just about.
There you go.
Is that why you're not on video, Kelly?
No, actually my camera blew out. I've been on so many Zooms. It's like my charge card during Christmas. It just blew out.
Ed?
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah. I just want to ask, I attend and participate in the CPC meetings, and very often they ask for a little bit of a report from the various commissions that comprise that group. So if anybody has anything at all, you can email me or something that you'd like me to bring up at those CPC meetings. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. So we can just the best thing for you to do that with that is for anybody who's going to make a suggestion. or have any comments for it, for Paul to relay to the CPC, just send them to Kelly. Send them directly to Kelly, and then Kelly will distribute them back to Paul. That way we keep everything above board for the ethics folks. So
That's fine.
Just to follow up on what Paul has said, as a member of the Yarmouth Water Resources Advisory Committee, you can expect to receive within the next week or so a notification of the special town meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th at 6 o'clock at the Mattokees Middle School. Of particular interest to those who are specifically centered on the sewers and wastewater, the funding for the Clean Water Design, the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund, and the CPA surcharge exemption will be brought up and voted on by the town registered voters at that time. They've already approved the fact that the sewers will go in, and that 50-year project will begin. Now we just got to start to pay for it, and this will be the payment.
And how much again is that, Tom? What's the overall price tag?
I've lost that, Ed. It's of course in millions.
I thought it was 126.
Is it 126 million?
I think so.
No, I thought it was 326 million. So we'll take
I forget what it was. I've got it in phases, but
yeah,
the overall. It's a little bit early to try and decide what's going to happen to the economy and the cost of borrowing, for one thing.
Yeah, that's going to be a big issue all the way around for the next year or two at least.
It is. Right now, there will be absolutely no property tax impact, which is a marvelous way to get
Annie,
it.
you all right?
Pardon, Nellie?
Sorry, my dog is just scratching.
That's the poison ivy.
Yeah, she's the one who drags me through it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Anything else? No, Kelly, you have anything else for us?
I have nothing else other than to say that my intern started last week and he's doing a wonderful job, and I feel so great to have him and so grateful to have him.
Can I get that put down for the letter of recommendation?
Most definitely.
Can he do minutes?
I could. Honestly, it would be more convenient if I did minutes. I could.
There you go.
There you go, Ellie. Ellie, you might want to take him up on that right now.
Yeah, I might have to run.
Just again, what was the motion? Who made the motion? Was it seconded?
I made the motion to adjourn.
There you go. Yeah, you don't even need that. I'll declare we're adjourned as of 7:23 p.m.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
What happened to the 11 o'clock nights? I
We
miss
start
all-
at 4:30. We start.